we bought this farm, and I planted vegetables for our family to, put in the freezer, that kind of thing. And a girlfriend of mine came by who has her own fruit stand and her own farm, and she said she wanted to buy these green and yellow beans from me, and I thought she was kind of crazy. I was just going to give them to her. She's my girlfriend, right? And she said, no, I want to sell them at the road stand. And so I got all excited thinking, yay, I can do this. I can just sell this stuff. That's perfect. So I gave her the beans, full bushel of them, which excited me. It's a lot to pick a full bushel. Anyway, picked the beans, got them sold, and then she wanted more. So I'm like, okay, I've got to plant more beans. So we transferred our garden over to out to the field rather than kind of in our yard area, and we put horses there. And then it started expanding, and my husband and I looked at the soil and said, this is nice sandy soil. We had the soil tested, good pH level, so we decided to plant strawberries. And strawberries were planted. I had a few other vegetables planted as well, and started putting them at a little road stand that we had at the road, and people would stop by and pick them up, and I was getting excited because I could sell these vegetables. I thought it was pretty cool. So we expanded the field. We put another 2,500 strawberry plants in that year, and so the strawberries started to expand. And then we had marketers from the city coming by, and people just driving by and pulling in and saying they wanted to buy vegetables from us. So we advertised that we're growing pesticide free and growing organically, and more people came and started buying vegetables from us. So that's kind of how Brandner Farms got started. Grandparents came from Europe. They both immigrated here separately and then married here. And they were just outside of Kingsville. They were farmers from the old country. And my sister and I were on the farm all the time when we were young, learning to do what Grandma taught us to do, how to plant tomatoes. And I can still remember my grandmother taking a greenhouse tomato, because greenhouse tomatoes were just becoming the in thing then, and her tomato from the vegetable patch. And in her German accent, she said, "Na, Kinder, you come and see what's going to happen with these tomatoes." And she took both tomatoes and put them on her windowsill. And then every day we'd come back to the farm because they babysat us while my parents were working, and we saw how those tomatoes aged and what happened to the tomato. And Grandma's tomato got riper and redder and richer, and the greenhouse tomato got nothing. It didn't really do anything. It stayed the way it was. Oh, a lot has expanded in the greenhouse industry since then, but Grandma's tomato had an amazing flavor to it because it was grown organically in the field, and so that was something that stayed with me. I helped my uncle with pulling weeds and picking up stones and driving the tractors and things like that. So I learned to plant from my grandparents, and then got married and went into the fashion industry. And I was in the fashion industry for 20 years. Corporate world, flying back and forth, doing all the businessy kind of things that you do. And my husband is an engineer, so he worked over in the States doing that. And then we found our dream farm because we'd been looking for quite a long time for it. And I bought the farm and stopped the fashion industry totally. I retired out of that and went right into farming, and so now I have farm girl hands and bare feet in the dirt all the time, and loving it, loving every minute of it. Probably the most favorite part for me is starting the seedlings and then seeing them sprout and then watching them expand into the field. And when we plant kale, I love planting kale because it's probably one of the first things we put in the field in the spring. We put it in where they're tiny little plants, and then we cover the whole thing with row covers so that they're protected. And then a month later we pull off this massive cover. It looks like a giant sheet out in our field, and they've like doubled in size. And I get so excited because it started with a little seed and dirt, and then once they get big enough, they're probably radishes, strawberries and kale and rhubarb and asparagus are the first things that we are picking from the field in the spring. And to see it come out of the ground and be ready to cut it and harvest it is so cool, because you started with a little seed or nothing, and you couldn't see anything in the dirt, and then it's there and you can harvest it and people can eat it. I just love that concept. I think it's just cool to have something from nothing, really, and be able to give it to people to help their bodies stay fresh or their bodies stay healthy.